There goes Tim Connelly. Let's talk about it.
You are Locked On Nuggets, your daily Denver Nuggets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Nuggets, your daily Denver Nuggets podcast, part of the Locked On Network, your team every day. Thanks for making us your first listen each and every day. We're free and available on all platforms, including YouTube, where you can join the show and talk about it. This is an emergency podcast. I'm doing this solo. Adam and I talked about it after we finished the DNVR show. And so here's what we're going to do. I'm going to talk about it and give you my thoughts on my reaction to the news that Tim Connelly is gone. Tomorrow, Adam and I, after a night to sleep on it, will come back with kind of like our collective thoughts on exactly what we feel about how things are going. Let's start here. Tim Connelly is leaving the Denver Nuggets. He has agreed to a 5-year, $40 million deal with the Minnesota Timberwolves. Much expected, finally official as of Monday afternoon. First reported by Adrian Wojnarowski of ESPN, not surprisingly, and then confirmed by John Krasinski and Shams Charania of The Athletic. The important thing, I think, to note here more than anything else, honestly, is this was the big takeaway from the Athletic story. This deal pays Tim Connelly twice what he was making with the Denver Nuggets. 2 times. Twice. That's a lot of money. The other obvious component is the ownership stake. That's the biggest deal here. And look, multiple league people I've talked about this with have said that's an insane offer. No one gives up ownership. You have to be a major player with so much money and bring something and all these things. No basketball person gets those kinds of opportunities. And so Tim got an absolutely insane offer, and good for Tim. Congratulations to Tim Connelly, his wife Nega, his kids. It's great for them. Gonna set them up for generational wealth. That's awesome. Even if the equity stake is discussed as kind of a longer term. I'm pretty sure it'll likely vest over time. Things change. We'll see. But even the opportunity of that, you can't say no to that. We're going to talk about what this means for the Nuggets. So, Woj reported that Josh matched it in terms of the ownership stake, is what No Name is God tells me in the Slack. I have not seen that yet. What I will say is if they match that and he still left, then it was about the money. And again, let's just start here. Okay. Sorry, Zamora says no, he didn't. I'll wait and see what the actual results are of this. We'll talk about it tomorrow. There'll be more fallout from this. I am very rarely a leave the answer blank kind of person. So if you say they should fire Michael Malone, he's not the guy. Okay, who do you want to hire? That's my first question. Who do you want to hire? Well, they need to get a defensive wing. Okay, what's your idea? What's the guy that you think that they should trade for, and is that guy available? What's the answer here? This is what I will tell you, flat out. End of point. Whatever it would have taken to keep Tim Connelly, the Cronkies should have done. Specifically, one Cronky, and that's Stan Kroenke. You pay what it takes. Not doing so is the issue here. Not doing what it takes sends a signal. You let a player walk in free agency. The Milwaukee Bucks talked to PJ Tucker and said, hey, go get an offer and we'll match it. And PJ Tucker was like, you, I'm out. He went to Miami, right? They let that open up. I don't think PJ Tucker makes a difference versus the Celtics, but did the Bucks do everything to win? They didn't. Ownership did not do everything to win. You could say that ultimately it didn't cost them. I think that's fair, but you also can't say they did everything to win. You let a coach walk. He gets to the end of his contract and you're like, well, we think you're good, but and you let him walk and he goes, and it's a coach that everyone knows is pretty good. You didn't do everything that it takes to win. Same thing with the front office. This would be entirely different if this was my first run through with this, guys. I watched Masai Ujiri, who everyone knew was good when he took over the Nuggets. Everyone was like, he's really going to be good as Masai Ujiri. He's a really sharp guy. And the way that he navigated the Carmelo Anthony trade, which is an extremely difficult situation to walk into, with what he set them up on for long-term success, how he navigated that team and built a really good team that without Gallo got the 3 seed at the end of the season and lost to the Warriors at the start of that franchise, and then won XOY and then left because they didn't want to pay. This has been the MO. I've been around here for a decade now. The MO has always been this. If there's a chance to win a title, ownership is willing to pay for players. And that's what they've proven, right? I've given them credit for that. I've given the Nuggets credit for being willing to pay for players. But the modus operandi has been everywhere else. Does it really matter? Does it really matter? So that's, I think it is kind of the question mark here, right? Is the Nuggets have literally let an executive of the year and a guy that probably should have won it walk over money. There wasn't personal strife. It wasn't, well, there was tension between the GM and the superstar. It wasn't a toxic culture like Neil O'Shea in Portland. Wasn't that. Everyone was on board with Tim Connelly. Where this gets to, and we'll talk about this in the second segment, is about was Tim Connelly worth it? Right? Was Tim Connelly worth all this? How good was he really? The point is that this is absolutely not about that. It has nothing to do with the short term. It's nothing to do with how Tim Connelly navigated last year's free agency. It's not about bringing Barton back or adding Facu. There's this comment, they match the money, so it's not the ownership stake. So this just isn't about being cheap. They own like 5 sports teams. They aren't about to start setting precedent to give out ownership stake to everyone. Then that's fine. You go above and beyond. That's my point. What if it's ownership? Because I'll tell you, Tim was still was on the fence here. This wasn't like a. Yes, the ownership stake is absolutely that's crazy. That's crazy. But if they match the offer, hey, we'll match it, except that, you have this thing worth potentially hundreds of millions. No. You give him a long-term contract for as many years and as much money as it takes to get him there. That's the deal. You spend the money to keep him. He wants to stay. He's comfortable here. His family's comfortable here. You do what it takes. If your idea is that there's nothing to be done, that the ownership stake was a complete outlier and there was no replacing that, you might be accurate. But here's another thing. Why let it get to this point? Why not sign into a bigger long-term extension last year? Why not provide that security and be like, no matter what, we've got our guy? Why is this a thing? Why are these discussions up for it? Connelly doesn't have an agent. He hasn't been like working the sides. They came to him. Let's take a break. We're going to come back and I want to talk about exactly what this means in terms of what losing Connelly is in terms of the basketball and why it's still a net negative move. We'll do that when we come back on Locked On Nuggets. First, I want to tell you about Prize Picks. All right, NBA fans, you're looking for a daily fantasy option for the NBA? You got to try the award-winning app Prize Picks. Prize Picks is daily fantasy made easy. We love it. We know you will too. You just pick 2 to 5 players and over/under on their projections, and you can win up to 10 times on the entry. It's just you versus the projected numbers. So I've been taking like Reggie Bullock over on threes. Didn't hit last night because he went 0-14, but they use him a lot in pick and roll. It's a very easy spot to bet. I'm going to be on Reggie Bullock over on threes again. Entries can be made in 60 seconds or less. It's that easy. You can find it on the App Store or Google Play. They offer any prop you can think of: points scored, threes, rebounds, steals, anything. And they've got multi-sport offers, so you can throw in college basketball, college football, NFL, MLB, soccer, MMA, and more. And for a limited time, Prize Picks has an exclusive no-brainer of an offer for all of our users. Just use code NBA, and you're going to get $50 for free if your player scores a single point. That's right. Just use code NBA and get $50 for free if the player in your first Prize Picks entry scores a single point. Prize Picks is daily fantasy made easy. We'll be right back on Locked On Nuggets. Back here on Locked On Nuggets. Thanks for making us part of your day and your first listen each and every day. Make sure your second listen is the Locked On NBA Big Board. It's going to be of great use to you as we get ready for the NBA draft at the end of June. Richard Staven, Sam Ferris, and Leif Thulin with mock draft, player rankings, and of course the big boards. It's free and available wherever you get podcasts. The Locked On NBA Big Board. Look, short term, this is fine. Calvin Booth is going to do a great job. Calvin Booth is well regarded in the league. Calvin Booth is well regarded in Denver. There's a lot of confidence in his ability. He's been a scout for several years. He's played in the league. He has relationships and negotiations. There will probably be a shift. I think that this front office will probably be a little bit more aggressive, which is what fans want. Tim Connelly was always very cautious with his approach. Tim was always like he didn't trade Ty Lawson until it was absolutely necessary. He didn't trade Kenneth Faried until it was absolutely necessary. His moves were always very careful because he wanted to be that was his approach, to be very deliberate and not rush into things. You're at a point now where I think the aggressiveness might wind up being a good thing. So Denver made a bid to keep Connelly that would have moved him into one of the better paid execs, is what was reported. One of the better paid execs. I'm not asking them to make him the highest paid. I just do think that you honestly, at this point, you have to, at some point, just be like, you're just going to pay to keep him. Like, this is the big thing. It sends a message. That's what I will return to with this. It sends a message. This situation is actually not about Tim Connelly or Calvin Booth or Tommy Balcetis or Michael Malone or Nikola Jokic. It's not about any of that. It's not about Josh Kroenke. It's about Stan Kroenke. That's it. Is that there's a message sent that, well, I'm willing to pay to put together a winner to a point. You don't have the advantages built in for that. You don't operate on South Beach with a championship culture. You don't operate with the Lakers, who everyone wants to play for, regardless of reasoning or context. You don't even operate in New York with all of the advantages there. If you take this approach, you are saying, well, we're going to get it done, but, if we could skim a little bit. Maybe it works. It can work. The Nuggets aren't going to fall off, right? Tim Connelly doesn't leave and suddenly Nikola Jokic gets worse at basketball. Tim Connelly doesn't leave and they lose Jamal Murray. Tom Connelly doesn't leave and Michael Porter Jr. is gone. Or Aaron Gordon, right? Or Bones Highland. Okay? There are ways that this can work out. And if the Nuggets win a championship, it will be largely built on the work that Tim Connelly has done. And everyone in the front office would recognize that. There's opportunities for them to make it better. Everyone has been fans are constantly frustrated because they want everything now. And like, why aren't you doing more? Why aren't you doing more? Why aren't you doing more? Well, if you want more, maybe you should look at ownership. Because look, it's not like ownership said all right, we can't match an ownership stake. That's crazy. They didn't turn around and then go, hey, let's go get one of the best execs in the league. Now, I think Calvin Booth is going to do a great job. Maybe Calvin is one of the best execs in the league. We don't know, right? He's been a GM for a highly successful franchise for the last couple of seasons. He's been a part of some major decisions, right? So it's entirely possible that the answer is in-house. Calvin Booth's going to take over as president of basketball operations. Tommy Balcetis is going to move into the GM role. That's what's going to happen. Dylan Pounds. Oh my God, Matt, let us overreact. Okay. I don't know if that's saying that I'm underreacting or overreacting. The Nuggets are going to be fine right now. My problem is just you as fans should hold Stan Kroenke responsible, because he said to you, I'm willing to do whatever it takes to win an NFL championship. Really, what difference does an executive make in the NBA? Well, it makes a lot of difference. Now, Masai left. Okay, Masai leaves in 2013. He takes the Raptors offer in large part because, again, these extra above and beyond things, right? The Raptors not only offered to make him one of the highest paid execs and give him all this control and give him all this power and give him a long-term deal, but they also offered to fund Basketball Africa, which is very important to Masai, right? They went above and beyond. Okay, so you can make the same case here, above the ownership stake, above and beyond. Okay, so he leaves. And they hired Tim Connelly, a long-term scout. And honestly, Tim fell on his face early. I did not know if Tim Connelly was going to be a good executive those first couple of years. His first moves were JJ Hickson and Nate Robinson. He brought in JJ as a culture guy. And I was like, what? He told me that in the hallway. And I was like, what? And it was a disaster. But what he did after that, how he built through the draft and then the subsequent moves, there's been the idea that he hasn't done anything in recent years. It's just flat out not true, guys. He traded a first-round pick to get Jeremy Grant. That was a steal. That was an amazing move that put them in championship contention. They made the Western Conference Finals. I don't care about the bubble. That move was in large part what got them there. Okay? Jeremy leaves because they offered the same money in a limited cap structure, mind you, the same money, and he leaves for a worse team. Okay. They turn around the next year and they trade for Aaron Gordon, who I think in an overall aspect in terms of the defense and what he brings is an upgrade over Jeremy Grant. Okay. Like, have there been mistakes? Absolutely. This is not to say that like Masai Ujiri hasn't been without mistakes. The Raptors bench this year was a disaster. There have been mistakes along the way. Everyone in the business is going to get things wrong. But the overall track record and what Conley built here was very successful. The vibe was good. The culture was good. The personalities were, everyone was in line. When you start having conflict is good, but when you start having conflict that creates divisions, that's when organizations tend to go awry. And that's what typically happens. And there's been some of that through the years here. Arturas and Tim had things they just strongly disagree on. You're always going to have that. But I'll also say, like, there's a sign that Tim Connelly was not given an offer to convince him to stay, given everything that Denver has in its favor. Like, this is not, I'll also say this, I'm not sitting here saying that Tim Connelly is going to go and dominate with the Minnesota Timberwolves. It's bad that it's a division rival because, in part, thanks to Tim Connelly and his drafting decisions, you've now given the Utah Jazz Rudy Gobert, the Utah Jazz Donovan Mitchell, the Portland Trailblazers Yusuf Nurkic, but whatever, the Thunder a first-round pick, and the Minnesota Timberwolves, their head of basketball operations, and Malik Beasley, who will probably wind up being traded again. All of those things, right? Like, they've done a great job making other teams better. You have a division rival, but I don't think that like Tim goes there and immediately it's like, oh, they're a championship contender now. That's not how it works, right? The players and the coaches are what matter. And I think they got the coach there. They'll do a good job. I think they'll get along very well. I think Finch and Conley will both get along really well. But they've got to navigate things like Cat's a very different superstar than Jokic. There's all these things. The pushback on this has been like, why are we talking about Tim Connelly as if he's like Pat Riley in the 80s? And we're not. My issue is entirely about this is an area where you're not paying nearly as much money as you have for players. You don't have a salary cap. And they walked. Eddie Sell, Peter Connelly, Tyler Lydon, Emmanuel Mudiay, Wancho, Thomas Welsh, Will Gary. Good luck. Plus he wanted Buddy Hield over Jamal. Look, man, I don't know what to tell you. They are a championship contender. They're a championship contender in Denver. Like, you can list all the mistakes that you want. The wins for Tim Connelly greatly outlist the losses. I'm sorry. You can complain about whatever you want. That's the reality. And like, you're just going to complain about anybody else. Like Peter Connelly and Tyler, like the Tyler Lydon draft was a disaster. Emmanuel Mudiay, honestly, Mudiay was such a highly regarded pick. I can't even blame him for that one. That one I'm going to give him a pass on. There have been mistakes. You cannot look at any team and be like, there haven't been mistakes. Get over it. Absolutely ridiculous. Like, I don't know what we're arguing about here, guys. Jokic has been the MVP the last 2 seasons. Jokic has been a top 5 player in the league the last 3 seasons. Okay. The work was put in before that in building the core of a team that had financial flexibility to make the moves that they did. I've never heard that Tim wanted Buddy over Jamal, by the way. That's just not what I've heard. So whatever. Zamora asked, do you have any thoughts on what the difference between TC and Booth will bring to the role? We'll talk about it a little bit more tomorrow with Adam, but I do think we're going to see like a little bit more aggressiveness. I just think in general, there'll probably be Tim built the team, right? Conley built the team, and GMs are always very partial to the guys that are theirs. Calvin came in and added to it. So he'll probably be more partial to guys like Bones, right? You're always more partial to your guys. That's how it works in the NBA. It's like you're always very, very tied to your guys. Charles Begman asked, is there anyone from a historic winning franchise that can step in and take it to the next level via a quote new kid on the block? I think look, it's going to be Calvin and Tommy Belchez for a year. Now, I don't think that those guys are on long-term contracts. Maybe they get them if the year goes great and if they have a dynamite bang up offseason, then it could be great. We'll talk more about that on the tomorrow show. But like, are there guys? Yeah, I could list you like a couple of names, but it doesn't matter. And look, if it does, I'll tell you this too. If Calvin Booth and Tommy Belchez do an amazing job, guess what's just going to happen? They're going to get better offers, and then they're going to leave. And the front office will be like, well, just find another one. We'll just find another one. And to me, I don't know that that's a great plan. No Name is God asked, given where the Nuggets are, is it good to have a rookie for president of basketball operations? Look, Calvin hasn't been at this level, but he's been in basketball organizations for 30 years. So Calvin's got a lot of experience. I think Calvin's going to do great. I think, look, we'll judge them. They'll get judged by what they do this summer. They have big holes to fill. They have major initiatives to carry out, and we'll have to see what they do. Yeah. So I think that's the short answer here is there concern from it's a little bit unproven. You're going from again, it's not, is Calvin a bad choice? It's no, Tim Connelly was just a way better one. That's like the real answer here. Again, I'm just going to say, like, the Nuggets ponied up and were willing to pay the luxury tax to give Jamal the extension and MPJ the extension and Aaron Gordon the extension, right? And at the time, it was like, hey, MPJ is like a star. And now it's like, oh my God, why did you give him that contract? They've proven that that they're willing to spend in the luxury tax, and they deserve credit for that. Like, the ownership group deserves credit for that. I disagree fundamentally with the notion of not spending what it takes on the back end. These decision-making things are honestly less, like, those things aren't dictated by injury. Those things aren't dictated by like chemistry conflicts in a locker room or outside agent influences. These are things that you can control, and making that move, I think, is pretty rough. CT3 says, agree with all of your takes, Matt, but as long as the Nuggets have Jokic, I'm confident in their contention. Maybe Calvin provides a different outlook on team building. That's just what I said. That's why I said this. When you go back and listen to CT, you'll hear, like, that's what I said. This doesn't hurt them short term. They're fine. This doesn't impact Jokic's supermax. I think our friends overseas will probably make noise about it, but I don't think it will change it. I think he signs the supermax. I think he signs it quickly. I think he signs it the second they put it in front of him. I don't think he has any interest in leaving. I think does Tim leaving make him sad? Yeah. Does he have a relationship with ownership? Yes. Is this his city? Yes. Is this the right city for him? Absolutely. Does he have teammates that he can trust to win with? Yes. So, okay, I'm going to push back again on Eddie because he just keeps popping in here with nonsense. Give Calvin a shot, man. We said the same thing when Connelly took over for Masai. Two things. One, I've said repeatedly, I think Calvin's going to do a great job. Said that repeatedly. Two, this is not about, like, the idea of, oh, we got rid of the old guy and we just found a good replacement. It's such a bad process. I'm sorry. I'm not going to sit here and be like, hey, you did it once, you can do it again. It's really dumb. It's really dumb to think that. Coming back down from 3-1, how many teams you come back down from 3-1, you going to do it twice? No. It's not how this works. It's not how this works. Let's take a break. We're going to come back and we're going to finish up talking about this whole situation and get you set. I want to get my thoughts and like how I feel right at the moment. And then Adam and I will talk about it more tomorrow. But first I want to tell you about Rock Auto. With the ever-increasing number of makes and models, it's impossible for your local chain auto parts store to stock all the parts you need. Why endure pointless or irritating conversation from whoever's working in those big box stores who aren't going to have the parts anyway when they're trying to charge you more anyway? Just use rockauto.com. It's at home and in your pocket. You're going to save time and money. It's a family business serving do-it-yourselfers for over 20 years, and they've got everything you need for brake parts, tail lamps, motor oil, even new carpet. Their prices are reliably low for every customer. No price gouging, no price shifts for whether you're a professional or do-it-yourselfer. Go explore the easy-to-use website today and find the solution for your auto parts needs. Go to rockauto.com right now and see all the parts available for your car or truck. Right, Locked On in their How'd You Hear About Us box so they know we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need at rockauto.com. We'll be right back on Locked On Nuggets. Back here on Locked On Nuggets. Thanks for making us part of your day. Thanks for all the folks in the comments and chat. Blair says, so is this just frustration with process versus outcome? Yeah, I think that's an accurate way to say it. It bodes poorly for Denver building a championship contender, because if you're not willing to spend on the president of basketball operations, their answer is going to be like, well, we paid the luxury tax for these 3 players. Okay. But what if they're not? Well, like, what if you take a step backwards, right? What if next year it doesn't go to plan? What if there's an injury? Like, again, it just shows you're either willing to do everything you can to win a championship, or you are not. Now, look, I think certain markets are definitely in different boats. Like OKC has to operate differently. They just do. Their TV deal is different. Denver operates in a much larger market. Like, this is where Denver's always been weird. They're not a glamour market because they're not LA, and they're not New York or Chicago or Miami. Players are not like, ooh, ooh, ooh. Okay? You guys know this. This is not a small market. There's a lot of money here. Again, just want to state this for the record, that the president of basketball operations just walked after building a championship contender built around a 2-time MVP that the local fans with cable could not watch the last 2 years. Oh, here's another good one. Jay, all this soft side for TC when we only have 4 playoff appearances in his era. The draft picks is cool, but was terrible in free agents and trades besides AG. Only 4 playoff appearances? Only 4? Please go to Reddit and go to the Kings Reddit or the Magic Reddit or any number of the other ones. Please, I'm begging you, have some perspective. Only 4. They only made the Western Conference Finals 1 time. I swear to God. I swear to God. My point here is not that Tim Connelly is the best executive of all time. There are things that Tim got absolutely wrong. I think Tim was too different. Tim was too cautious, and Tim was too partial to his guys, like a lot of GMs are. It's hard for me to fault that. But everything about the way that Tim Connelly conducted business, to me, from the outside perspective, from a reporting perspective, led to success. The process was good. The process was sound. And that's likely to continue with Calvin Booth. But what happens when Calvin gets a better offer? Right? What happens when the next guy's up? You had an opportunity to lock in a guy that's been extremely successful, especially, by the way, I'll say this. If you're going to be cap strapped, it said like, oh, the draft picks were cool and all. Well, guess what? If you're going to be cap strapped, guess what you need to nail? The draft. That's a thing. And again, I think it's entirely, I don't think this hurts the team short term. You should be mad as Nuggets fans because your ownership decided that his money was more important than your success. Not even a lot of money, but that's what he decided. Now, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there was no chance. Maybe Tim Connelly would just be like, no matter what, as long as the equity stake was there, I was taking it, and there was nothing comparable that could be offered because it would have been hundreds of millions of dollars. Maybe that's the case. But if that's the case, you should have locked him up a long time ago. So you could be like, no. We have him on lockdown. Because there were other, I will tell you also, like the list of guys that they asked around about. If it was that much of a no-brainer of an offer, why didn't Sam Presti take it? If it was that much of an offer, why didn't Masai Ujiri take it? How many drafted is All-Stars, though? I'm going to guess where this person is from. I mean, it depends on if you feel like Jamal is at that caliber or not. Is that how we're judging people now? It's just like, oh, you have to draft 4 All-Stars or you're a bad GM. Crazy. Jokic gets everyone paid. That's very true. Look, there's a lot. Look, again, I want to try and like assuage your fears here. You don't need to be looking at this and saying like, are we screwed? You're not screwed. You're the majority of the work, in my opinion, is done. Right? That's not to say that this isn't going to be a challenging summer for the new front office. It is. The old front office, new front office. It's going to be a big summer, but you have the guy, which is always the hard part. Right? The Sacramento Kings have been trying to... If the Kings had found a Jokic, they wouldn't be in the spot that they're in. Like, you have Jokic, and that's the biggest part of it. Sorry, my kids are home. You have Murray, who is a great number 2. And either MPJ or Aaron Gordon is very likely to be the number 3 that you need. You have options. You have all types of things that you can do. Like the team short term is going to be fine, guys. You don't need to. The window's not closed because Tim Connelly left. That's not how this works. Front office guys, like the idea that front office guys come and go is not inaccurate. Like people change jobs. That's what happens, right? It's that there was no reason for this to occur outside of just the price tag that I wind up being like, I don't know. Again, I'm open to being wrong. Maybe there was just simply no way to match the money or nothing that could be done. Given that Stan Kroenke's worth $10.1 billion, I tend to disagree with that notion. I just think that it was, there are certain things that you need to be able to keep. And I think that if you don't think it's a bad look for a team that has been at the level of competition that they've been at, and like, yeah, they got knocked out in the first round without 2 of their best players, to what is likely going to be the eventual NBA champion, mind you. If you're willing to let that guy walk, it just, what else are you not like? Where's the practice facility? Where's the TV deal? You know, what's next? What else is it going in this? Blair says, how dialed into this stuff are players? That's an interesting question, Blair. I think there are some players that are very dialed in and are very like paying attention and asking questions and making sure that they know what it looks like. Their agents are who's going to do a lot of that. The agents will be on the phone, like managing these conversations. And so they'll be then pass that information on to players. There are guys that are just going to be like oblivious to it. They'll just be like, whatever, man, I'm on contract. People come, people go. This is a business. It's a pretty healthy way to go about, honestly, is control what you can control. I've been in locker rooms where they were discussing like the lockout in 2011. And there was a player that fundamentally did not understand like what had happened in the lockout. He was like, wait, what? What do you mean? What's the BRI? And like, they're talking about this in front of the media. And like, somebody was like one of the players like looked at me and was like, I was like, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Right. So this is like, but now there's like extremely plugged in players too. There's just a variety of folks. Zamora, that's Nug Life. The team owners are the team's own worst enemy. I think it's really there's only one guy that I have an issue with. I think if Josh Kroenke were just running things, which of course he is, because Stan Kroenke doesn't have anything to do with the Nuggets. I think Josh has the right approach. Josh has always kind of shown innovation and a willingness to spend to succeed and all those types of things. So Bobby Basilisk, that's a fantastic name, Bobby. TC was important. His whole character was the organization. It's like family because of him. That's accurate. Now, there are downsides of that, right? The unwillingness to make moves is part of that. It's like, look, we don't want to give up on people. We want to put guys in the right position. We believed in them. We want to stay. But part of that too is that's how you get players to trust you when you don't operate in a market. If you sign with the Lakers, you understand that you can get dealt, but you're like, whatever, I'm a Laker. You sign with the Heat, you know that they'll make whatever the best business decision is for them because that's like they are all about business. Whatever. I live on South Beach. The Nuggets have built a real success here in part because they've kind of changed that. They went to, we take care of our guys. Our guys are about basketball. We're about basketball and all of that. Family is built by the players. It's basketball. Again, Jay, I'm sorry. That's just not how it goes, man. That's just not accurate. From doing this for a living professionally, from covering these teams, it's not how it goes. That's just not accurate. The organization will always reflect the best player to a degree. Like that will shape a lot of what happens. But Jokic also isn't involved enough to have that kind of influence because that's not what Jokic how he prefers to approach it, right? The team will take on the identity of Jokic, but that culture is not built. That culture is not built by the players. It's just not. I'm sorry. That's inaccurate. GK asks, Mr. Moore, in Jokic's situation, would you sign a Supermax or maybe go to Dallas? Great owner ready to invest. Jokic is going to sign the Supermax. Sorry, friends. No Slovenia, Serbian hookup. He's going to sign the Supermax. I would tell you that my surprise level, like my confidence level in Jokic signing the Supermax is 90%. It was 100% with Tim Connelly here. It's 90% now. That's how much Tim Connelly matters, is 10%, but it's still 9 out of 10 times. Okay. Let's see what else we got here. I'm looking at the comments. Are the Nuggets bigger bums than the Rockies? Well, no, that's not true. And look, I want to keep this in perspective. Again, I want to stress this. The Nuggets paid to completely remodel the locker room and all the areas. That was good. They still need a practice facility. They're in the luxury tax. That to me is like, look, if it was a choice, if you were like, okay, ownership's either going to pay to keep Tim Connelly or they're going to pay the luxury tax. You want them to pay the luxury tax. That's a much bigger deal. It's a much bigger deal. Okay. You can't win if they don't pay the luxury tax. You can't. The choice is not binary because there's not a salary cap for executives. There's not a salary cap for executives. You can pay them as much as you want, which is why this situation is what's in. And look, I think a lot of this too is about if you're a fan of the team and you're like, all I care about are the highs. I don't care about the long term. I care about the highs. You're fine, right? Calvin's going to do a great job. They'll probably be more aggressive, which actually could wind up being a net positive. In a year, we could be like, hey, is Calvin Booth the Xly? We could be definitely saying that. That's absolutely possible. Like Calvin, we did a show with Calvin. If you guys want to hear more about Calvin, go back in the archives and you can find a show. We did a show with him last summer. Hopefully we'll have Calvin on again this summer to talk about his new job as president of basketball operations. So Blair says, this is a good point. When TC arrived, he had to fire Brian Shaw and change the culture. Well, he didn't hire Brian. Brian was hired before Tim came on, but he did have to fire him. In this case, Booth doesn't have to do either. If TC's culture is worth a damn, the mandate should just be to maintain. It's true that he just has to maintain it. And, maybe you can. I tend to think that these things have to be kind of constantly reinvented. And I think they naturally will. Like that to me is a bigger thing. I don't think you can't beat Tim Connelly. Calvin Booth can't beat Tim Connelly. And that's not to say that one's better than the other. Calvin's got to be him. He's got to take on his own personality, right? And so he can value the things that he's going to value. And those things may honestly be more successful. There's a lot of times the whole family thing, I was like, I don't know, man. Sometimes you just got to make I always lean towards cold calculus. This is why I'm I'm one of the guys that like all the Maury dudes, because I'm just they make the right decisions. They look at these things objectively. Oh, this is another thing we'll talk about this tomorrow. We'll have to talk about this tomorrow. Malone is seething right now. We'll talk about Malone's situation tomorrow because it does change. Not dramatically, just got the extension, but it changes. The situation is different. So lots to kind of figure out here. I need to get my thoughts off this, which are, here's my big takeaways. The Nuggets are fine in the short term. Losing Tim Connelly is not the end of the franchise. They're going to be okay. They might be better. They might win the championship. The way that they lost Tim Connelly was bad process. Ownership did not do everything that it takes to win. And ultimately, that's a failure from ownership. Look at this way. Not addressing the need for a backup center soon enough, or if you think not trading Will Barton, or whatever criticism you have that's on Tim Connelly, playing Facu Campazzo so much in the early parts of the season. Those are mistakes by Michael Malone, right? But we can hold them accountable and say those were mistakes, and also say that losing Tim Connelly over money is a failure by ownership. Doesn't mean that they're the worst owners in sport. They're not. They're absolutely not the worst owners in the league. It's not true. It's just not. I think under Josh Kroenke, they've done a lot of good things, but this is not a win. We'll move on. We'll talk more about all this stuff tomorrow with Adam Moore after we've had some time to think about it. I want to get you an emergency podcast. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Have yourselves a great week. Make sure to download the podcast and hit us with the likes and the subscribes and the 5 stars. Follow YouTube, turn on notifications so you can join the show and tell me about how this is a great move or whatever. Have a great week. I'll see you guys again tomorrow with another edition of Locked On Nuggets.